The Galactic Council's chambers buzzed with tension. The Council, a vast assembly of the galaxy's most influential species, had gathered for an emergency meeting. A looming threat, unlike anything the galaxy had faced, was upon them. Turkan, a ruthless alien warlord whose conquests spanned star systems, had turned his eyes towards a small, seemingly insignificant planet, Earth. Earth was known to some council members, though it was young and isolated. Humans had only recently ventured into the galactic stage, but their potential had not gone unnoticed. Despite their short time among the stars, humans had displayed an unusual adaptability and resilience. The Council was aware that if Tarkin moved against Earth, it could trigger a chain of events that would destabilize the entire region of space. Warlord Turkan was not one to be easily swayed. He ruled with an iron fist, leading his empire of brutal warriors with one goal: domination. The Council had dealt with him before, but always through diplomacy. This time, they feared diplomacy would fail. In a hushed voice, Councillor Victrax, a seasoned diplomat, addressed the assembly. The humans are unlike any other species we've encountered. We must intervene before Turkan makes a grave mistake. His arrogance may very well be his undoing. The Council's decision was unanimous. A delegation would be sent to Turkan's capital world to warn him. Earth was not to be touched. They hoped that Turkan would heed the warning. But deep down, many feared that the warlord would laugh in their faces. The Galactic Council's delegation was chosen quickly, a mix of diplomats and military advisors who had dealt with Turkan in the past. Leading them was Councillor Victrax himself, a veteran of countless negotiations. He knew how to navigate the volatile political landscape of the galaxy, but even he felt an ominous weight settle in his chest as they prepared to depart. The mission was not without risk. As they made their way to Turkan's capital world, Victrax couldn't shake the feeling that this meeting might be different. Turkan's recent victories had emboldened him, and the warlord's empire now spanned more systems than ever before. Turkan had grown increasingly unpredictable, and his ambition seemed limitless. Upon arriving at the warlord's fortress, a towering structure that dominated the skyline of his capital world, the delegation was greeted by a squad of heavily armed soldiers. Their faces were hidden behind impenetrable helmets, their weapons gleaming with alien technology. The message was clear: Turkan was preparing for war. Inside the fortress, the delegation was led through halls filled with trophies from conquered worlds. Banners of fallen empires hung alongside mounted weapons and alien artifacts. It was a brutal reminder of what Turkan was capable of. Finally, they'd reached the throne room, a vast chamber where Turkan sat on a massive throne carved from the bones of a long-extinct species. The warlord was an imposing figure, towering over the delegation. His armor, black and scarred from countless battles, seemed to absorb the light around him. His cold, yellow eyes locked onto Victrax as he entered the room. "You come to deliver another weak plea for peace, Counselor." Turkan's voice boomed through the chamber, dripping with contempt. Victrax stepped forward, his heart racing, but his voice calm. "Warlord Turkan, we come not with pleas, but with warnings. The planet Earth, though young, is not a target you should pursue. The humans are resilient, unpredictable, and their world has the potential to disrupt the delicate balance of power within the galaxy." Turkan scoffed, a cruel smile creeping across his face. "Humans. I have heard of them. A primitive species, barely capable of space travel. You insult me by suggesting they are a threat. They are not like other species you have conquered," Victrax replied, holding Turkan's gaze. "They are adaptable, resourceful, and have overcome challenges that would have destroyed others. They have the capacity to surprise even the most powerful of adversaries." The warlord leaned forward, his eyes narrowing. "I have crushed every species that has dared to defy me. Earth will be no different." Victrax knew that words alone would not change Turkan's mind. "You may succeed in attacking Earth, but the cost will be far greater than you realize. The humans have allies, some within this very council, and they will not stand by it while you threaten their world." Turkan's laughter echoed through the chamber. "Allies? You mean the Council. A group of weak-willed bureaucrats who have done nothing but delay the inevitable. You are all afraid of the power I wield, and afraid of the truth, that no species in this galaxy can stop me." Vatrax stood firm. "The Council does not fear you, Turkan. We simply wish to avoid unnecessary destruction. This is your last warning. Leave Earth alone, or face the consequences." The warlord rose from his throne, his towering figure casting a long shadow over the delegation. "I do not take warnings from cowards. Earth will fall, just like all the others. You are dismissed." Vatrax and the delegation bowed and left the throne room, their mission unsuccessful. As they exited the fortress, Vatrax knew that the galaxy was on the brink of war. Turkan would not listen. He would attack Earth, and when he did, the consequences would be catastrophic, not just for humanity, but for the entire galaxy. As their ship departed the warlord's capital, Vatrax sent a message to the Council. "Turkan will not be swayed. Prepare for the worst." The news of Turkan's impending invasion reached the Galactic Council quickly. Though many feared the worst, some still held hope that humanity would not fall as easily as Turkan believed. Earth, after all, had a history of defying the odds. While the human race was technologically inferior compared to most spacefaring civilizations, they were unmatched in one key area: their creativity. Throughout their history, humans had consistently found ways to overcome obstacles that seemed insurmountable. They were a species of survivors, driven by a relentless will to adapt and thrive under even the most dire circumstances. In the hidden depths of Earth's military command, high-ranking officials scrambled to analyze the situation. Satellite images showed a massive fleet assembling near the edge of their solar system. The size and firepower of Turkan's forces were unlike anything humanity had ever encountered. General Alice Munro, one of Earth's leading strategists, stood at the forefront of the defense preparations. "We've faced impossible odds before," she said, addressing her team. "We survived our own global wars, we survived ecological disasters, and we've rebuilt after every crisis. This will be no different. We're going to show them what humanity is made of." Monroe knew that brute force alone wouldn't win this fight. Turkan's empire had technological and numerical superiority. Instead, they would need to rely on Earth's greatest asset: their unpredictability. She devised a plan that would exploit the very thing the aliens underestimated: human ingenuity. As the invasion fleet approached, the people of Earth united like never before. Scientists, engineers, and soldiers worked around the clock, preparing defenses, developing new tactics, and crafting weapons designed to catch the invaders off guard. The world watched as the alien armada drew closer, but instead of despair, there was a growing sense of determination. "We've come too far to be conquered," Monroe said. "If Turkan thinks he's walking into an easy victory, he's in for the fight of his life." And so, as the first of Turkan's ships breached Earth's atmosphere, the humans stood ready, their resolve unshaken. They were about to show the galaxy why no one should ever mess with humanity. The sky darkened as Turkan's fleet descended upon Earth, their ships casting ominous shadows across major cities. Massive alien dreadnoughts hovered in the atmosphere, dwarfing anything humans had ever seen. Turkan's forces were relentless, deploying waves of fighters and ground troops across strategic locations worldwide. But Earth's defenses were far from unprepared. General Alice Munro stood in the central command bunker, surrounded by holographic projections of the battlefield. Every move Turkan's forces made was monitored in real time. The alien warlord's strategy was clear: overwhelm and subjugate through sheer force. But Monroe had other plans. "All units, initiate Phase 1, she ordered. Across the globe, a coordinated response began. Earth's military had strategically placed orbital defense platforms that fired massive railguns and EMPs, targeting the heart of Turkan's fleet. Ships that had seemed invincible shuddered as systems were disabled, while several smaller vessels exploded outright. Humanity's first strike had caught them off guard. "They didn't expect us to fight back so fiercely," Monroe muttered under her breath. On the ground, the situation was equally intense. Turkan's elite warriors, towering figures clad in advanced armor, landed in major cities, expecting to crush human resistance swiftly. But instead of panic, they were met with a surprising mix of guerrilla tactics, sabotage, and unconventional warfare. In New York, makeshift barricades lined the streets as soldiers and civilians alike used whatever means they had to fight back. Homemade explosives, drones, and cyber attacks targeted the invaders, exploiting weaknesses in their otherwise superior technology. What Turkan had dismissed as a primitive species now fought with a level of coordination and ingenuity that made his forces stumble. "They may have the tech, but they don't know how to fight like us," Captain Marcus Rice said to his squad as they launched another coordinated ambush, taking down an enemy patrol in the ruins of downtown Los Angeles. Meanwhile, Monroe's secret weapon was being prepared. Deep underground, hidden from Turkan's forces, humanity's brightest minds have been working on something that could turn the tide. It wasn't just brute force or superior strategy. They had something else, a prototype weapon designed not to destroy but to disrupt. "Activate the neural disruptor," Monroe commanded. A series of towers, hidden in plain sight, activated across the planet. These devices emitted a low-frequency pulse aimed directly at the alien soldiers. Designed to target the neural pathways of Turkan species, it scrambled their communications and coordination, throwing the once formidable invaders into disarray. Turkan's ground forces faltered as they became unable to communicate with each other. Panic spread through their ranks as they found themselves isolated and vulnerable. In some areas, human soldiers were able to push them back entirely, regaining control of key locations. Up in the atmosphere, the disruption was having an effect as well. Turkan's command ships, disconnected from their ground units, struggled to maintain control. The carefully coordinated invasion began to unravel. In his flagship, Turkan watched the chaos unfold, his yellow eyes narrowing in fury. This was not the easy conquest he had anticipated. The humans were fighting back with a ferocity and cunning he had not expected. "Impossible," he growled. "How can they be this resilient?" His advisors stood in silence, unsure how to respond. Turkan's entire empire had been built on the premise that no species could withstand his overwhelming force. But now he was facing something far more dangerous, a species that refused to surrender. On the ground, General Monroe watched as the tide of battle shifted in humanity's favor, but she knew they weren't out of danger yet. "Turkan himself hasn't made his move," she said to her staff. "He's watching, waiting. We need to push him into action." Her mind raced, formulating the next phase of the plan. Turkan's strength was in his ability to command his forces with ruthless efficiency. If they could force him to act personally, they might have a chance to exploit his weaknesses. "We're going to take the fight to him," she decided. "Prepare the strike teams. Target the flagship." As humanity regrouped and the invaders faltered, a bold plan began to unfold. Special forces teams, equipped with the latest experimental technology, were dispatched on a daring mission to infiltrate Turkan's command ship. Their objective: disable the warlord's command center and cut the head off the invasion. In the dead of night, using stealth cloaking devices and advanced tactical suits, the strike teams boarded small, agile craft and launched toward the massive alien ship looming above the Earth. The mission was dangerous. Many would not return. But if they succeeded, they could cripple Turkan's entire war effort. As they approached the flagship, anti-aircraft fire from the alien defenses lit up the sky. The team's pilot, dodging the blasts with expert precision, weaved through the chaos until they made it to a landing bay on the underbelly of the ship. "Brace for landing," the pilot called out as the ship touched down. The strike team, led by Captain Reyes, stormed out of the craft, weapons ready. Their objective was clear: reach the command center, and disable Turkan's control of his forces. But as they advanced through the alien corridors, they encountered fierce resistance. Turkan's elite guards, massive and heavily armored, blocked their path at every turn. The humans fought with everything they had, using hit-and-run tactics to wear down the enemy. Reyes, firing his pulse rifle at an advancing alien, barked into his comms. "We need to move faster. Turkan's going to catch on." In the command center, Turkan watched the unfolding battle, his patience wearing thin. "Prepare my personal guard," he ordered, standing from his throne. "If the humans wish to face me directly, I will oblige them." With that, the warlord prepared to enter the battle himself. Back on Earth, General Monroe received word of the strike team's progress. She knew the final confrontation was close. Turkan would soon make his move, and humanity would be ready. As the final phase of the plan unfolded, one thing was certain. No matter the outcome, the galaxy would never underestimate Earth again. The Galactic Council monitored the battle from afar, watching as Earth defied the odds. The tension in the Council's chambers was palpable. Some species whispered in astonishment, others in fear. Earth, once seen as a mere backwater planet, was now the focal point of galactic attention. Turkan's invasion was faltering, and the Council had to decide whether to intervene or let the conflict play out. Councillor Vetrax, who had initially argued for diplomatic action, now watched the screens with a mix of awe and concern. "This cannot be allowed to escalate further," he murmured. "If the humans defeat Turkan, his empire will fall into chaos. The repercussions could ripple across the galaxy." But for now, the focus remained on Earth, and specifically on the daring strike team that had infiltrated Turkan's flagship. Captain Reyes and his team were deep within the bowels of the alien ship. The air was thick with tension as they moved silently through the metallic corridors, their every step calculated. They had already faced heavy resistance, and each encounter had left them battered, but their mission remained clear: disable Turkan's command center and cut the invasion's head off. Reyes glanced at his comms. "Monroe, we're approaching the central core. How's the battle looking down there?" General Monroe's voice crackled in response. "We're holding them off for now. Your window's closing, Reyes. Turkan's personal guard is moving to intercept you. You need to take him out now." Reyes clenched his jaw. "Copy that. We're going in." The team pushed forward, reaching a massive door that led into the command center. Reyes signaled for the charges to be placed, and within moments, the door blasted open, revealing Turkan's throne room. The throne room was vast, with high ceilings and walls adorned with trophies from Turkan's countless conquests. At the far end of the chamber, the warlord himself stood, his towering figure imposing even from a distance. Clad in intricate, dark armor, Turkan's eyes burned with contempt as he watched the humans enter. "So," Turkan's deep voice boomed, "you are the ones responsible for this defiance. I commend your bravery, but it will not save your world." Reyes stepped forward, his weapon trained on the warlord. "You underestimate us, Turkan. We're not here to save ourselves. We're here to end you." Turkan's lips curled into a sneer. "You think you can defeat me in my own throne room? I have crushed empires larger than yours. You are nothing more than insects beneath my feet." With a sudden motion, Turkan drew a massive energy blade from his side, the weapon crackling with power. His elite guards, standing at attention around the room, readied their own weapons. Reyes and his team fanned out, taking cover behind pillars and statues. The final battle was about to begin. On the surface, the battle between Earth's forces and Turkan's invasion fleet had reached its climax. General Monroe watched the holographic displays, her hands clenched behind her back. Turkan's forces were faltering, but Earth's own defenses were stretched to their limits. Cities burned, and the skies were filled with fire and smoke. Yet despite the devastation, humanity was holding strong. The neural disruptor continued to wreak havoc on Turkan's forces, and Earth's armies had gained the upper hand in several key locations. But Monroe knew that without the strike team's success, it would all be for nothing. "Reyes," Monroe said through the comms, "we're counting on you. Turkin needs to fall, or this war is far from over." Back in the throne room, the battle was fierce. Reyes and his team moved with precision, firing on Turkin's guards while dodging the warlord's devastating blows. Turkin was a force of nature, his energy blade slicing through the air with lethal precision. Reyes rolled to the side as Turkin's blade came down where he had stood moments before. The warlord's strength was overwhelming, but Reyes could see that Turkin was growing frustrated. His invincibility was being challenged for the first time in centuries, and it showed in the warlord's increasingly reckless strikes. "We need to break his focus," Reyes yelled to his team. One of his soldiers, a demolitions expert named Jensen, tossed an experimental explosive towards Turkin's feet. The device exploded in a flash of light and sound, temporarily disorienting the warlord. "Now," Reyes shouted. The team unleashed a barrage of firepower, targeting Turkin's armor at its weak points. The warlord staggered, his once impenetrable defense now compromised. But even wounded, Turkin was far from defeated. With a roar of fury, Turkin charged at Reyes, swinging his blade in a wide arc. Reyes barely managed to dodge the strike, feeling the heat of the weapon as it passed inches from his face. "Is this all your species has to offer?" Turkin snarled. "Pathetic." Reyes gritted his teeth. "We're not done yet." With a final desperate effort, Reyes activated a hidden feature in his suit, a high-frequency pulse generator designed to disrupt energy-based weapons. The pulse rippled through the room, and Turkin's blade flickered and died, the energy field around it collapsing. Turkin stared at his now useless weapon in disbelief. "That's your mistake," Reyes said, stepping forward. "You thought we'd fight on your terms." With one final shot, Reyes aimed at Turkin's chest, hitting the warlord squarely in his exposed armor. The blast sent Turkin stumbling back, crashing into his throne with a deafening roar. On the surface, General Monroe received the signal she'd been waiting for. Turkin was down. "Reyes, you did it," she said, her voice filled with relief. "Now get out of there." As Reyes and his team made their escape, the Galactic Council watched in stunned silence. Turkin, the warlord who had terrorized countless worlds, had been defeated, not by overwhelming force, but by the resilience and ingenuity of a species they had once dismissed. Councillor Vatrax stood, addressing the assembly. "Let this be a lesson to all of us. Humanity is not to be underestimated. They have shown a strength that few could have imagined." With Turkin's death, his empire began to crumble. Without their leader, the once coordinated invasion fell into disarray, and Earth's forces quickly capitalized, driving the remaining invaders off-world. Humanity had not only survived, they had emerged victorious. As the smoke cleared and the fires burned out, the people of Earth began to rebuild. They had faced the greatest threat in their history and had prevailed, but they knew this was only the beginning. The galaxy now knew of Earth's strength, and humanity, no longer isolated, had earned its place among the stars. The skies above Earth slowly cleared as the last of Turkin's forces retreated beyond the atmosphere. On the surface, people emerged from their shelters to witness the remnants of the alien invasion fleet departing, and for the first time in days, there was silence. The battle was over. General Monroe stood atop a makeshift command post overlooking one of Earth's largest cities, the landscape around her scared but still standing. She allowed herself a rare moment of reflection, watching as the fires in the distance began to smolder and die out. Despite the destruction Earth had endured, a communications officer approached her. "General, you have an incoming message from the Galactic Council." Monroe nodded. "Patch it through." The holographic image of Councillor Vatrax appeared before her, his expression a mixture of respect and awe. "General Monroe," he began, his voice carrying a gravitas that Monroe had rarely heard from alien diplomats. "On behalf of the Galactic Council, I extend our deepest respect for what your people have accomplished. Few believed that Earth could stand against Turkan, but you have proven us wrong." Monroe crossed her arms, still guarded. "We didn't do this for the Council's approval. We did it to survive." Vetrax nodded. "Understandable. But you must know that this victory will have far-reaching consequences. Turkan's empire is in disarray, and the power vacuum he leaves behind will affect many regions of space. Some will look to you now, not just as survivors, but as potential allies or threats." Monroe remained silent, considering his words. Vetrax continued, "The Council wishes to formally invite Earth into a new era of diplomacy. Your species has earned its place among the stars, and we believe that with your creativity and resilience, you could become a valuable member of the galactic community." Monroe didn't respond immediately. The thought of Earth suddenly becoming a key player in galactic politics seemed overwhelming, especially in the wake of such devastation. But she knew it was inevitable. Earth could no longer remain in isolation. "We'll need time to recover," Monroe said finally, "but we'll consider the Council's offer." Vetrax inclined his head. "We will await your decision. Until then, know that you have the Council's support in rebuilding." With that, the hologram flickered out, leaving Monroe alone once again. She sighed, turning to face the ruins of the city. Earth had won its battle, but the war for its future was just beginning. Elsewhere on Earth, in the heart of the capital city, Captain Rice and his team were being hailed as heroes. The media had already begun broadcasting their faces across the globe, telling the story of how a single strike team had infiltrated Turkan's flagship and brought the warlord to his knees. But Rice wasn't thinking about glory or recognition as he sat in a quiet corner of the military barracks. His mind was still replaying the final moments of the battle with Turkan, the warlord's sneer, the weight of his blade crashing down. The fact that they had succeeded felt surreal. "Hey," a familiar voice said, breaking him from his thoughts. It was Jensen, the demolitions expert who had helped disable Turkan's guards. "You all right?" Rice nodded slowly. "Yeah, just processing it all." Jensen sat down next to him, resting his helmet on the table. "We took down the biggest warlord in the galaxy, Rice. That's something most people won't ever understand." "Yeah," Rice replied. "But what comes next? Turkan's gone, but his empire's still out there. There'll be other threats." Jensen shrugged. "Maybe. But after what we pulled off, I think the galaxy's gonna think twice before messing with us again." Rice smirked. "Let's hope you're right." Back in the Galactic Council's chambers, the aftermath of Turkan's defeat was the subject of heated debate. Representatives from various species argued over what the power shift meant for the galaxy. "Without Turkan to unite them, his warlords will carve up his empire," one counselor argued. "The chaos could spread to our borders. We need to stabilize the region before that happens," another countered. "And we should begin with Earth. Their people have shown strength, but they're vulnerable now. We must offer them protection." Vetrax listened to the discussions with measured calm, but his mind was already elsewhere. He knew that Turkan's death was only the first domino to fall. The galaxy had changed, and Earth's emergence as a new power was a pivotal moment. It would not be long before other factions took notice, and Vetrax knew that not all of them would be as eager for diplomacy as the Council. As the debate continued around him, Vetrax made a decision. He would personally oversee the diplomatic efforts with Earth. The humans had proven themselves, and now they would need guidance if they were to navigate the complex web of galactic politics. But more than that, Vetrax sensed that humanity's role in the galaxy was just beginning. They were unpredictable, resourceful, and perhaps most importantly, united in a way few other species were. If nurtured correctly, they could become one of the galaxy's greatest assets. If mishandled, they could become a threat greater than Turkan ever was. On Earth, reconstruction efforts were already underway. Cities were being rebuilt, and the scars of the invasion were slowly beginning to heal. But the memory of the battle would not fade easily. Across the planet, monuments were erected in honor of those who had fought and fallen. Humanity had come together in a way it never had before, and there was a sense of unity that transcended borders and politics. General Monroe stood in the center of one such monument, watching as people gathered to pay their respects. She had never been one for ceremonies. But this felt different. It wasn't just a victory celebration. It was a reminder of what they had survived, and what they had become. As she walked away from the gathering, her thoughts turned to the future. Earth had won the battle, but now came the challenge of securing its place in the galaxy. Monroe knew that they couldn't do it alone. They would need allies, and they would need to adapt quickly to the realities of galactic politics. But if there was one thing Monroe had learned from this war, it was that humanity was capable of far more than anyone had ever imagined. And as the stars began to shine in the evening sky, Monroe couldn't help but feel a sense of anticipation. Earth had survived its greatest trial, and now it was time for humanity to rise even higher. Weeks passed since the fall of Turkan. Earth was healing, but the scars of war remained both on the landscape and in the hearts of its people. Reconstruction efforts moved forward at a rapid pace, fueled by a united planet and the newfound alliance with the Galactic Council. The message was clear: Earth was no longer isolated. However, beyond Earth's atmosphere, the galaxy was watching. Turkan's vast empire had splintered, and his former warlords were vying for power. The vacuum he left behind was dangerous, and the instability threatened to ignite a conflict that could spiral out of control. In the midst of this galactic uncertainty, the Galactic Council moved swiftly to stabilize the region. Councillor Vetrax, now Earth's primary diplomatic liaison, made frequent visits to the planet. He worked closely with General Monroe and key world leaders, ensuring that humanity's integration into the broader galaxy was smooth and that Earth had a voice in the new order. "We must prepare for what comes next," Vetrax said during a strategic meeting with Monroe and her advisors. "Turkan may be gone, but his warlords are scattered. Some will look for alliances, while others will seek revenge." Monroe stood by the large window of the newly rebuilt command center, overlooking the skyline of the capital. The city still bore the marks of battle, but the sense of resilience was palpable. She turned to Vetrax, her eyes sharp. "What do you suggest?" "We need to consolidate Earth's new position," Vetrax said. "The Council sees great potential in your people, but to truly secure your place, you'll need allies beyond the Council. There are factions out there, species who fear what Turkan represented, and they will look to Earth for leadership." Monroe nodded. "We can't let this opportunity slip by. Earth's survival isn't just about defense anymore. It's about ensuring we're never in that position again." In the months that followed, humanity began its careful steps onto the galactic stage. Earth's diplomats, scientists, and military leaders traveled to distant worlds, forming alliances and establishing trade routes. The creativity and ingenuity that had helped them defeat Turkan now became their greatest diplomatic tool. Earth's unique perspectives and unconventional strategies fascinated many alien species, opening doors to cooperation. Yet not all were eager to welcome humanity. Some saw Earth's rise as a threat, fearing that the same unpredictability that had allowed them to defeat Turkan would make them dangerous. Among Turkan's scattered warlords, whispers of retaliation grew louder. In the depths of space, on the fractured remains of Turkan's former strongholds, a new leader was emerging. One of Turkan's most ruthless generals, Draken, had begun to unite the warlords under his banner. He had no intention of letting Earth's victory go unanswered. On a barren planet far from any trade routes, Draken convened with the remaining warlords in a dark chamber. He was a towering figure, clad in battle-scarred armor, his red eyes burning with fury. He had served Turkan loyally, and his master's defeat at the hands of humans had enraged him. "We will strike back," Draken growled, slamming his fist onto the table. "Turkan's death must be avenged. Earth will pay for its arrogance." The warlords around him murmured in agreement, but there was hesitation in their eyes. Draken knew they feared Earth, feared the unknown tactics that had led to their warlord's downfall. We underestimated them once. One warlord spoke up, his voice cautious. The humans are not like the other species we've conquered. Their unpredictability makes them dangerous. Draken sneered. That is why we will not face them head-on. We will strike where they are weakest. Earth is still rebuilding, still finding its place in the galaxy. We will exploit their vulnerabilities, and when the time is right, we will crush them. The plan was set in motion. Draken's forces would remain in the shadows, conducting sabotage and destabilizing Earth's alliances. He knew that while Earth was strong, its new position in the galaxy was fragile. If he could undermine their unity and weaken their alliances, he could pave the way for a final devastating strike. Part 7. The Final Confrontation. Back on Earth, intelligence reports of Draken's movements began to trickle in. General Monroe and Captain Rice, now Earth's most celebrated heroes, were once again called upon to prepare for the inevitable confrontation. "We've beaten Turkan," Monroe said during a briefing with Rice and the top military officials. "But Draken is different. He won't make the same mistakes. He'll come at us from the shadows." Rice, who had led the strike team that took down Turkan, nodded. "We need to take the fight to him. We can't wait for him to strike first." Monroe agreed. This isn't just about defense anymore. If we're going to secure Earth's future, we need to eliminate the threat before it grows. A new strategy was devised. Earth's forces, along with their allies from the Galactic Council, would track down Draken's hidden bases. It was a race against time. Draken was already sowing discord among Earth's new allies, and the longer he remained free, the more dangerous he became. The operation was swift and decisive. With the help of advanced reconnaissance technology provided by their new allies, Earth's forces pinpointed Draken's primary stronghold deep within an asteroid field. Captain Rice led the assault, his team once again at the forefront of the mission. The battle that followed was fierce, but Earth's forces had grown stronger since their first encounter with Turkan. Their technology had advanced, their tactics had evolved, and most importantly, their resolve had never been greater. Draken, defiant until the end, faced Rice in a final brutal duel. But just as Turkan had fallen before him, so too did Draken, his ambitions crushed beneath the weight of Earth's determination. With Draken's defeat, the last remnants of Turkan's empire collapsed. The galaxy, once dominated by fear of the warlord and his brutal regime, began to breathe a collective sigh of relief. Earth's role in ending that reign of terror was undeniable. In the aftermath, the Galactic Council formally recognized Earth as a central power in the new order. Humanity, once an isolated and technologically inferior species, had proven its worth not only as survivors, but as leaders. General Monroe, Captain Rice, and their teams were celebrated across the galaxy. But for them, the victory was not about glory. It was about ensuring that Earth would never again face such existential threats. In a ceremony on Earth, beneath the same skies that had once been filled with enemy ships, Monroe addressed the planet and their allies. "We've shown the galaxy what humanity is capable of. We've shown that when we stand together, there's nothing we can't overcome."